The European maps from the Middle Ages are filled with mysterious lands, legendary races, and terrifying monsters. Back then, only the Church, with divine guidance, could protect people from these nightmarish creatures. The medieval world was a place of uncertainty, where souls were believed to be constantly at risk of being snatched by spiritual forces. In an era where death came swiftly, the boundaries between the living and the dead were far less clear than today. The supernatural was deeply woven into the fabric of daily life. Everything from illness to storms was seen as a sign from God, leading to a world dominated by superstition. Travel was a rare luxury for most, meaning encounters with these strange creatures were uncommon. But in today's episode of Tavern Tales, we're diving into some of the weirdest and most fascinating medieval monsters. Welcome to Tavern Tales. The Bestiaries. The Bestiaries, these medieval books of beasts, were beautifully illustrated texts created in Northern Europe. For medieval Christians, everything in the world was seen as a reflection of God, and the Bestiaries focused heavily on the spiritual significance of each animal, exploring its connection with both God and nature. These books cataloged a vast array of creatures, describing their traits and offering medieval men and women crucial insights into how to navigate their dangerous world. The content of a bestiary could range from dozens to hundreds of animal descriptions, each accompanied by a vivid illustration. The entries were usually organized by categories: serpents, birds, sea creatures, and land animals. While some of the animals were familiar, like blackbirds, rabbits, or badgers, others were viewed with peculiar beliefs. For example, owls were considered unclean because they preferred darkness over light, and spiders were described as aerial worms that fed on air. Incredibly, they even believed bees were just tiny birds. Some descriptions delved into the animals' symbolic roles in Christian teachings, while others focused purely on their physical features. Originally crafted for education, bestiaries eventually became prized possessions of the wealthy, serving as a form of entertainment. Many of the creatures depicted in these texts also found their way into medieval maps and explorers' tales, reflecting the mix of reality and fantasy that shaped the minds of people in the Middle Ages. Unicorns. Among all the beasts of the medieval world, the unicorn is undoubtedly one of the most cherished. It's a perfect example of a legendary creature serving as a living allegory, with both its behavior and appearance symbolizing key aspects of Christian faith. Unicorns have been described in different ways, sometimes as small as a goat, other times as large as a horse. Their most notable feature, of course, is the single long horn on their forehead, often depicted with a spiral design. The unicorn was considered both fierce and incredibly fast, so swift, in fact, that no hunter could ever hope to catch one. But naturally, there was one way to tame it: a virgin maiden. When the unicorn saw the maiden, it would approach her, rest its head in her lap, and fall asleep. At that moment, the supposedly foolish beast could be captured, but it had to be presented to the king, as its horn was extremely valuable. This horn was believed to have the power to neutralize poison when dipped into a poisoned drink. In case it wasn't obvious, unicorns are purely fictional, but they became powerful symbols of Christ in medieval art. The horn represented the union between Jesus and God. Its small size symbolized Christ's humility, and its fierce nature reflected the failure of hell to contain him. Griffin's the Griffin, a hybrid of an eagle and a lion, was one of the fiercest creatures found in medieval bestiaries. Its origins date back to ancient Egypt, with mentions over 3,000 years before the medieval period. This fearsome beast had the body of a lion, symbolizing strength, while its head and wings resembled an eagle, symbolizing sharpness and power. Griffins were said to tear apart horses or carry men away to feed their young. In the 14th century, Sir John de Mandeville wrote of a distant land filled with griffins, claiming they were so powerful they could carry away yoked oxen or even great horses in their claws. According to him, these creatures were larger and stronger than 8 lions and 100 eagles combined. Their talons were so massive that people crafted drinking cups from them, while their ribs were used to make bows. The griffin's image symbolized divine power and protection, but also reminded medieval folks of the dangers that lurked in distant, unexplored lands. Manticores. The manticore was another terrifying hybrid, though this one had the body of a lion, blood-red fur, the face of a man, and piercing blue eyes. Its tail was like that of a scorpion, complete with a deadly stinger. Known for its incredible agility and ability to leap long distances, the manticore was a predator of humans, devouring flesh and spreading fear wherever it roamed. Its voice was said to resemble a whistle, and it could shoot venomous needles from its tail. A 13th century monk, Bartholomew Anglicus, described the manticore as having 3 rows of sharp teeth, a voice as horrible as trumpets, and of all the creatures on earth, none more cruel. The beast's fearsome appearance and lethal nature made it a symbol of danger, warning travelers of the risks of venturing into unknown territories. The manticore's mythical status in medieval bestiaries was a reflection of the medieval imagination, where the line between reality and nightmare was often blurred. Dragons were the largest and most fearsome creatures in medieval lore, often described as serpents of immense size. Sir John de Mandeville claimed that some dragons were 100 fathoms in length, larger than any other animal known to mankind. Typically, dragons were said to dwell in caves, with crested heads, narrow nostrils, and small mouths that concealed a long, flicking tongue. However, their deadliest weapon wasn't their fire breath. It was their powerful tails, capable of lashing out and crushing their prey. Medieval accounts often placed dragons in hot, exotic lands like India and Ethiopia, linking them with the devil himself, who was considered the king of pride. Dragons appeared frequently in religious tales, with saints often tasked with defeating them. In the 6th century, a Parisian bishop supposedly struck a dragon 3 times on the head, leading it through the streets on a leash before banishing it back to the forest. Other stories told of dragons preying on sinners, devouring bodies, and facing divine retribution. Dragons were more than just terrifying beasts. They symbolized chaos, sin, and the ongoing battle between good and evil. Centaurs. Centaurs, creatures with the body of a horse and the upper body of a man, were a fascinating aspect of medieval mythology. Featured in the 11th-8th century Bayeux Tapestry, they were also mentioned in 7th and 8th century manuscripts known as the Marvels of the East. Described as a man down to the navel and afterwards in the shape of an ass rather than a horse, centaurs were often associated with wildness and untamed nature. In Greek and Roman mythology, centaurs were notorious for their lustful behavior, and this perception carried over into the medieval period. They represented the struggle between civilization and savagery, embodying the dangers of unchecked desire. Another similar creature, the satyr, shared their appearance but had the lower body of a goat instead of a horse. Medieval bestiaries typically placed both centaurs and satyrs in Ethiopia, warning Christians of the perils of lust and the temptations of traveling to foreign lands inhabited by strange beings. The centaur thus served as a reminder of the moral lessons surrounding desire and the thin line between human and beast. Sawfish. The sawfish was a formidable sea creature, described as large and dragon-like, with enormous wings that it would use to shield itself from the wind while attacking sailing ships. This monstrous fish was notorious for its sawtooth crest, which it could use to slice through vessels, sending them to the depths of the ocean. Once a ship was sunk and its sailors drowned, the sawfish would feast on their remains, embodying the dangers that lurked in the unexplored waters. The moral tale behind the sawfish was profound, likening it to a righteous man who starts with good intentions but soon grows weary and succumbs to sin. Just as the sawfish eventually tires and dives deep beneath the waves, so too do individuals falter in their moral journeys, risking their own salvation. The winds held back by the ship's sails represented the devil, who obstructs holy inspiration from guiding mankind toward virtue. In this way, the sawfish serves as both a terrifying creature of the deep and a cautionary symbol of the struggles between good and evil within the human soul. Mermaids, those enchanting half-human creatures, captivated medieval imaginations with their beauty and mystery. From the waist up, they resembled stunning women, while their lower halves transitioned into fishtails. In some depictions, mermaids even boasted two tails, adding to their allure. Often shown in church decorations, they held combs and mirrors, symbols of pride and vanity, despite their wild and unkempt hair. Many medieval cultures shared tales of mermaids or similar beings, with stories ranging from benevolent helpers to deadly seductresses. In some accounts, they would rescue sailors, while in others, they lured men into the depths of the sea with their beauty, where they would ultimately drown. In Western Europe, mermaids were particularly associated with the deadly sin of lust, representing the dual nature of temptation, leading men not only to their physical demise but also to the loss of their souls. The mermaid myth served as a reflection of contemporary societal views on women, portraying them as both objects of desire and dangers to be wary of, reinforcing the idea that indulgence in worldly pleasures could lead one astray. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the fascinating world of medieval monsters in another episode of Tavern Tales. We hope you enjoyed and learned something new about these extraordinary creatures that captivated the minds of the Middle Ages. If you liked this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more intriguing stories. And, of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Which of these monsters did you find the most interesting and why? Leave your comments below. Until next time.